Yeah, this particular movie it kind of caught my attention because I had seen some YouTube videos about it um, by different channels that talk about historical events, and that historical event being Operation Mincemeat.
Yes, Operation Mincemeat, an Allied attempt to fool the Germans into thinking that the Allies were going to come out of North Africa and go in via Greece rather than the obvious solution of Sicily.
Yes, and to pull off this deception, a group of British naval officers stage a rather elaborate uh, con by getting a dead body and putting fake orders and fake documents on it and letting it drift into the Mediterranean, into Spain, and then where we get picked up, and then German spies would get the orders and look at them, and then see what's going, where they're actually, or they would say the orders saying that they're going to Greece rather than Sicily, and then you know, yeah, it falls off from there, or the deception is successful, and the invasion is successful as well.
Yes, and the way I'm going to put this is okay, the mean version is this movie could have been an email. The real answer is this movie should have been a Fat Electrician or Count Dankula video.
Yeah.
30 minutes long. You get the highlights. You get them making some off-color jokes to spice things up when things get dull. You move on with your life instead
Right.
of 2 long hours.
Yes. Yeah, because in that 2 hours, we had along with the our main characters, trying to pull this ruse off. We have a lot of forced interpersonal drama, and some outside espionage stuff that really factor didn't factor into the plot really all that well. And hey, Ninja, good to see you.
Hi, Ninja.
Um, and the of course leading this group is Lieutenant Commander Ewan Montague, who's played by Colin Firth, and he's a lawyer who is leaving his job as a lawyer to go into the British service, into the British Navy during World War II. Of course, this is 1943. And I've one of the nice touches that I liked in there was that they show him, they show him at his goodbye party or retirement party, and he lives in this beautiful house, and they're all, everybody's dressed to the nines, and their dinner protein spam.
Yep. Nice little sign that the war was in fact causing problems with supply chains.
Yes, yeah. And then also as part of the group, we got Charles. God, how do you pronounce his name? Clomondelli.
Clomondelli? I don't know.
Clomondelli. Yeah.
I don't know if it'd be a CH sound or a K sound, but either way,
Yeah.
he's playing a lonesome military man, single, and he's not the favorite child of the family.
Yeah. Yeah. He has a brother who was a war hero, and
Fighter pilot, yeah.
fighter pilot. Yeah, and part of one of the little side plots is that they're trying to locate his brother's remains so they can give him a proper burial. And yeah, the way that and the character is played by Matthew McFadden, who you probably have a hard time recognizing him because he looks different in this, but he was in Deadpool and Wolverine. He was the TVA agent.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he's working in intelligence because he's nearsighted and he's got big feet.
Yep. Then rounding out our trio of main characters and our forced romantic triangle, that's Kelly MacDonald playing Jean Leslie, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Where she's just the she's kind of the crush of Charles, and ends up kind of snowballing from there. She's working at the office, and they decide. Well, okay, so taking a step back. So part of this whole thing is they have to make sure that their fake person is believable. So first they have the problem of how do we get a body and how do we make it look like it's a body that has to, or they have to be able to preserve it, and then they have to make it look believable that the person died of drowning.
Yes, and they have to give him a name of an actual British officer, and they have to give him this whole backstory of like, oh, he's from this kind of family, and he's got this and this, and the other part of it too is like, oh well, he's give him a wife,
I think they give him did they give a wife or did they give him a fiance? I don't recall.
well, yeah, maybe fiance, yeah. And the picture they used for the
Right.
fiance,
It was a fiance because I think they had the wedding ring in his possession.
Right. That's right. Yeah, and so the picture they used for the fiance is of Jean. And they give her the name, his name is William, but they call him Bill, and then they give her the name Pam. And throughout the whole thing, and part of what leads to the love triangle is Ewan and Jean, Colin Firth's character and Kelly MacDonald, they are, they're crafting this backstory, but then they start to, another way to phrase it, they start having an emotional affair.
Right. Start catching feelings.
Yes, and the problem there is that Colin Firth's character is married and he has two kids whom he had to send off to America.
Yep. Now, and you might go, well, what does this have to do with anything? Well, to make the backstory for their person, they make a point of making sure that so they have Charles wearing a uniform that they're having to wear out because, of course, you have to make things believable. You can't just have this corpse show up in a nice, crisp uniform that's never been worn before.
Right.
He can't just have the papers on him. You have to have a bunch of other personal effects, which is part of why they've invented this life story for him. It'd be helpful, and they decided it's helpful if Jean is seen around town with somebody in that military uniform. So they start going to these dance and jazz clubs or whatever.
Yeah, and of course, the other problem they run into is they're trying to take a picture of the body, and of course, it won't cooperate.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, okay, well, we got to find somebody to who kind of looks like him for the pictures. Mm-hmm. And they find an American officer who's like kind of quasi dating Jean, and he like fits the look of the guy perfectly. So they use him for the photo.
Yeah. And so I decided to look into how realistic this was. There was no real indication in real life that there was any sort of affair like this. They did go out a few times to cement the story, but it wasn't to this extent. It's also, it feels like it's basically a TV movie, which, Netflix is kind of the new TV. So if I adjust my expectations, it doesn't look that bad, although it's a very washed out color palette they're using.
Yeah, and that could just be to establish the time period.
Yeah, but it's like the shots aren't very interesting. Unfortunately, like, for a fascinating story, because there's a lot of logistical things they have to deal with. Like we mentioned before, yeah, they have to find a body, they have to preserve it for the month or so it takes them to set up the ruse. They have to come up with a waterproof ink that won't run, but won't be too obvious that it's a fake ink,
Yeah.
or get novel ink. They have to make sure that he's spotted around town before he goes off on this mission. They have to they go into, well, any idiot knows we're going to attack Sicily, so how do we know the Greeks are going, or they're going to believe we're going to invade via Greece?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's idiots in the German spy ring in Spain, and there's also there's like a lot of not ink spilled, but a lot of time spent on detailing the anti-Hitler League in German high command.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't believe that they're a thing.
Which I suppose this is before Operation Valkyrie, as memory serves.
Yeah, that was in 44 or 45.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
British intelligence in 1943 would have no real reason to believe that anybody was anything but loyal to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and I think that the problem here is that they just can't really manufacture tension, because it's like, what are the sources of tension? Oh, the romantic triangle. Will they? Won't they? Well, they basically, aside from there being a romantic entanglement at all, they stick to the history and nothing is ever consummated or acted upon.
Yeah.
Um, uh, the sister of the corpse they found. She shows up and starts asking questions, which was probably the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was. Yeah.
the high command doesn't really believe in Operation Mincemeat. Their funding could get pulled at any time, or they could have the mission canceled at any time. Oh, will they be able to convince their superiors to let the mission go through?
Yeah, and the superior is Admiral John Godfrey, played by Jason Isaacs, who I feel is kind of wasted in this movie.
There's a lot wasted in this movie.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, like I said, the proper format for this story, because, well, it's a very important story, and like they say in the movie, the greatest deception ever pulled off by military intelligence.
yeah.
Uh, it's not worth a 2-hour drama.
No, it more like an episode of an anthological TV show about World War II.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's a shame because Colin Firth does his best. He brings a lot of aged dignity to the role.
Yeah,
You feel for him, even though I could not gather a bit of care for most of what was going on.
yeah. Um, Yeah, and one other character that's in the movie that we forgot to mention, and he's a very well known figure, uh, Ian Fleming.
Good. If you weren't about to bring it up, I was about to.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond, he was actually involved a bit in Operation Mincemeat, and you can see some of the influences on what would eventually go into James Bond from this movie, like weird gadgets, somebody called M, who is the scariest one of all.
yeah, and they go to Q Branch. Yeah,
Yeah,
with aforementioned gadgets, and yeah, and now that I think about it, Operation Mincemeat kind of is similar to You Only Live Twice.
yeah, you're right.
Uh, yeah, which is a Sean Connery James Bond movie.
Yeah, isn't that the one where he pretended to be Japanese for a bit?
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, I mean, but yeah, the movie, like, it's, I think very much wasted potential because I mean, yeah, the story of what they did is pretty phenomenal, but at the same time, yeah, it gets really bogged down with needless subplots and you know things going on with the characters that we really didn't need to know about.
I would go so far as to say that, hey, Netflix, you are not bound by the rules of terrestrial TV or by movie theaters. Just make it an hour-long special, and you would have had something much more entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the way it goes, I guess.
Yep. Yeah. I would say if you're interested in this bit of history, don't watch this movie. Just find a YouTube video.
Yes. Yeah. There are plenty of good YouTube videos on this subject that'll give you the info that you need.
Yep.